Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're taking a deep dive into a text that's, well, it's over a century old, but honestly, its insights into how we learn feel incredibly relevant still.
Absolutely.
We're exploring John Dewey's classic, The Child and the Curriculum, from way back in 1902.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the surface, you might think it's setting up this, classic battle. The spontaneous, curious child on one side,
Right?
and the rigid, sort of predefined school curriculum on the other.
Yeah, the old opposition.
But Dewey, he argues that this apparent conflict, it's actually based on a misunderstanding.
And Dewey really gets to the heart of the matter there. He points out that these big disagreements we see in education, they aren't just, theoretical arguments people invent.
Right.
They grow out of what he calls a genuine problem, a real tension where different parts of learning seem to contradict each other. So our mission today is really to unpack how he tries to resolve this tension. And in doing so, he gives us this really powerful lens, I think, to view what effective education actually looks like.
Okay, so let's explore this apparent divide then. Dewey starts by painting this really vivid picture, these two very different worlds, the child's world and the curriculum's world. Can you break down what he means by each of those?
Absolutely. So think of the child's world as, he calls it a narrow world of personal contacts.
Yeah.
It's incredibly immediate.
Right, very present-focused.
Exactly. Their experience is centered right around their own well-being, their family, their friends. Everything's connected by these personal, social ties. It's all one integrated whole experience for them. Whatever they're intensely focused on right then, maybe a new toy, maybe a question about why the sky is blue,
Yeah.
that is their whole universe in that moment. Things just don't come neatly categorized or, as he puts it, pigeonholed for a child.
Right, it's just life happening.
Exactly. Fluid.
But then, the curriculum. The child walks into school, and suddenly their world gets, divided and fractionized?
Precisely. Geography over here, arithmetic over there, grammar somewhere else.
Yeah.
Each becomes this separate, kind of isolated subject.
And the facts themselves are often presented outside their original context, right? They're arranged by these abstract principles.
Yeah, this logical order. And Dewey explains, look, this isn't something a child just naturally gets. It's the result of centuries of scientific thought. It requires highly matured intellectual habits, and the specific techniques of an adult expert mind.
Okay. So if we kind of zoom out from that, Dewey identifies, three core differences?
That's right. He pinpoints three fundamental divergences. First, you've got the child's small, intensely personal world versus the curriculum's impersonal but infinitely vast world of space and time.
Okay.
Second, the child's unified, wholehearted life clashes with the specializations and divisions you find in the curriculum.
Right, the subject.
And third, you have that abstract logic of classification on one side against the very practical, very emotional bonds of child life on the other.
Wow.
And this fundamental split, as Dewey saw it, really sets the stage for these wildly divergent approaches to teaching and learning.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Dewey says these conflicting ideas led to different sects or schools of thought in education.
Yeah, that's his term.
Each camp sort of grabs onto one side and ignores the other. So what did these different sects believe? Let's start with the first one.
Okay, so on one side, you have the people who really champion the subject matter, the curriculum itself.
The traditionalists, maybe?
You could say that. They tend to see the child's world as, maybe a bit petty, narrow, and crude, as Dewey puts it, maybe egoistic, confused. For them, the studies, the subjects, that's what reveals the great wide universe, the world of objective truth, law, order.
So their approach is?
It tends to ignore and minimize the child's individual peculiarities, whims, and experiences. The child, in this view, is seen as an immature being who is to be matured. Their job is basically to receive, to accept, to be ductile and docile.
Meaning easily shaped.
Exactly. Easy to shape, easy to teach. This camp really emphasizes things like discipline, guidance, control, and preserving all that knowledge built up over the ages.
Okay, so that's one side. Knowledge first, mold the child. What about the other camp? How do they push back?
Well, the other camp basically says, hold on a minute. For them, the child is the starting point, the center, and the end.
Everything revolves around the child.
Right. Their development, their growth, that's the ideal. All the subjects, all the studies, they're just subservient to that growth. They're only valuable as instruments to help the child grow.
So the goal isn't just knowledge acquisition.
No, it's self-realization. They firmly believe you can't just pour information into a child from the outside because fundamentally learning is active.
The child has to do something.
Exactly. As Dewey puts it quite forcefully, literally, we must take our stand with the child and our departure from him. It is he and not the subject matter which determines both quality and quantity of learning.
Wow. That's a strong statement.
It is. And this school champions things like interest, freedom, initiative. They embrace the new, change, progress.
So you've got these two camps really dug in, very opposed.
Hmm.
What are the real-world consequences Dewey saw coming out of that conflict?
Well, he points out that these sects, they end up just accusing each other of everything under the sun.
Like what?
Oh, one side accuses the other of inertness and routine, the other fires back with chaos and anarchism, or maybe neglect of sacred duty versus suppression of individuality, all these extremes.
Most familiar, actually.
It does, doesn't it? And common sense, Dewey notes, often just sort of recoils from these extremes, leaving us stuck in this maze of inconsistent compromise. But Dewey's crucial insight, the real breakthrough, is that both sides are missing the point by insisting on the separation. The child and the curriculum, they are necessarily related to each other in the actual process of education. It has to be a process of interaction and adjustment.
Not an either situation.
Exactly. It's not a zero-sum game.
So if that's the problem, this false separation, how does Dewey propose we bridge that gap? What's his solution here?
What's really transformative, I think, is Dewey's call to fundamentally shift our perspective.
How so?
Well, from the child's side, it's about realizing that their current experience, even in its raw state, already contains the seeds, the elements, facts, and truths that connect directly to the sophisticated knowledge in formal studies.
Okay.
And it also contains the attitudes, the motives, the interests that actually drove humanity to develop that subject matter in the first place.
Ah, so the curiosity is already there.
Right. And then from the study side, it's about interpreting them not as these static finished products, but as dynamic outgrowths of forces operating in the child's life. We need to see how they bridge the gap towards the child's potential richer maturity. He puts it beautifully, I think. If we stop seeing subject matter as fixed and ready-made and the child's experience as somehow hard and fast, and instead see both as fluent, embryonic, vital, then the child and the curriculum are simply two limits which define a single process. It's like just as 2 points define a straight line, the child's present standpoint and the organized facts of studies, they together define instruction. And instruction is this continuous reconstruction of experience.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a continuum. And here's a powerful point he makes, too. Dewey reminds us that things like arithmetic, geography, history, these subjects are themselves experience.
Right, human experience, accumulated.
Yeah, exactly. They represent the cumulative outcome of the efforts, the strivings, and the successes of generations, just presented in an organized way. So when we pit a child's present, immediate experience against the curriculum, it's almost like saying, as he puts it, we're opposing the infancy and maturity of the same growing life.
Yeah, it's like saying the child's very nature is at war with their own potential destiny. It doesn't make sense when you frame it like that.
It really doesn't.
Okay.
So if studies aren't just this external thing being imposed, what exactly is their purpose in education? How do they actually help us and, more importantly, help the child?
Dewey really zeroes in on two crucial functions here: interpretation and guidance.
Interpretation.
Yeah. A child's current experience, as immediate and real as it is, isn't fully self-explanatory. It's not the final word. It's transitional, he says. It's just a sign or index of certain growth tendencies.
Okay.
So we need the structure of subject matter, the accumulated knowledge to help us interpret, to appraise what the child is doing right now. We need to see their actions and interests in the light of a larger growth process.
So it helps us figure out what their actions mean in the bigger picture.
Exactly. It helps us discriminate. Is this particular activity a symptom of a tendency that's actually fading away? Is this other thing a sign of a power or interest that's really peaking right now? Or maybe is this something small that's actually prophetic, hinting at future strengths?
That requires insight.
It does. And this also brings up a potential pitfall, especially for what Dewey called the new education movement, which focused heavily on the child's interests.
What's the danger there?
He warns against treating a child's current powers and interests as if they are finally significant in themselves. If we just focus on what they like right now, it can easily lead to indulgence and spoiling. As he puts it, interests in reality are but attitudes toward possible experiences. They are not achievements. Their worth is in the leverage they afford. They're starting points, not endpoints.
He has a great analogy for this, doesn't he?
He does. It's vivid. It's like the child is forever tasting and never eating, always having his palate tickled upon the emotional side, but never getting the organic satisfaction that comes only with digestion of food.
Wow. Just surface level engagement.
Exactly. No deep nourishment. So, subject matter helps us reveal the real child. For instance, he says, the entire science of physics is none too much to interpret adequately to us what is involved in some simple demand of the child for explanation of some casual change, like asking why a ball falls down.
Right. There's a huge amount of established knowledge needed to truly understand that simple question. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interpretation. What about the second function, guidance?
Well, that flows directly from interpretation. If we can interpret the child's vital movement, their developmental path, then we have a solid basis for guiding it.
And how does Dewey define guidance? Is it about steering them?
Yes, but crucially, he says guidance is not external imposition. That's key.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's about freeing the life process for its own most adequate fulfillment. It's about helping the child become what they have the potential to become.
Which connects back to that idea of nature and destiny.
Exactly. And he cautions against another danger he saw in the new education. This idea that a child could just sort of spontaneously develop facts or truths out of his own mind without being provided the right environing conditions.
Like inventing physics from scratch.
Pretty much. He says, look, nothing can be developed from nothing. And development isn't just about getting something out of the mind. It's development of experience and into experience. Meaning it requires providing the right educative medium, selecting appropriate stimuli that connect with the child's current state, but also lead them forward. And ultimately, adult knowledge, the curriculum, is absolutely essential for revealing the possible career open to the child. It shows them the paths available.
Got it. Now, to really grasp how this interaction works, Dewey introduces this really helpful distinction, doesn't he, between the logical and psychological aspects of experience. He uses that great analogy, the explorer and the map.
Yes, that's a fantastic analogy. It really clarifies things.
Can you break that down for us, the psychological versus the logical?
Yeah, sure. So the psychological aspect is like the explorer's own notes, taken while actually blazing the trail. It's messy. It follows the actual path of growth, noting all the uncertain and torturous as well as the efficient and successful steps.
It's the journey as it happened, warts and all.
Exactly. Raw, personal, chronological maybe, but definitely reflecting the process of discovery. The logical aspect, on the other hand, is the finished map.
Ah, the clean version.
Right. The map is created after the journey. Once the territory is understood, it assumes development has reached a certain point. It summarizes, arranges, clarifies the relationships between landmarks, maybe shows the most efficient route. It neglects the messy process to focus on the clear outcome.
So the explorer's lived experience is psychological, and the perfected organized map is logical. How do these two relate then? Are they opposed?
No, not at all. That's Dewey's point. They are mutually dependent. You can't have the map without the explorer's difficult, devious paths. There'd be no facts to put on the map.
Right.
But the map, this organized, formulated statement of experience, is incredibly valuable. It's obviously not a substitute for having your own personal journey, your own experience.
You still have to walk the path.
Exactly. But the map serves as a guide to future experience. It gives direction. It facilitates control. It economizes effort. Think about it. With good map, every new traveler may get for his own journey the benefits of the results of others' explorations without the waste of energy and loss of time involved in rediscovering everything from scratch.
That's huge. It saves us reinventing the wheel constantly.
Precisely. It's the net product of past experience in the form which makes it most available for the future. It helps our minds work more efficiently, it guides our observations, it directs our reasoning.
That's a really powerful metaphor. So the logical map isn't just a static endpoint. Its real power is looking forward.
That's it. It shows us how we may get the benefit of past effort in controlling future endeavor. And in this bigger picture, Dewey says, the logical standpoint itself becomes psychological. It's just a more refined point in the ongoing development of experience. It serves a purpose in our growth.
Okay, so if that's the relation, if the solution Dewey proposes is, as he says, to reinstate into experience the subject matter of the studies, we need to psychologize it. What does that actually mean in practice, to psychologize the curriculum?
Right. To psychologize, it basically means to turn that abstract logical knowledge back over, to translate it into the immediate and individual experiencing within which it has its origin and significance. It's about making it real and meaningful for the learner now.
Connecting the map back to the territory the explorer is currently in.
Beautifully put, yes. And Dewey points out there are really two different ways to look at any subject matter. One for the scientist and one for the teacher.
How are they different?
Well, for the scientist, the subject matter is a tool. It's used to be employed in locating new problems, instituting new researches. It's about pushing the boundaries of knowledge.
Okay.
But for the teacher, the problem is entirely different. The teacher's challenge is that of inducing a vital and personal experiencing in the child.
Bringing the subject to life for them.
Exactly. The teacher has to think about how this subject, this map, may become a part of experience for this particular child. What in the child's current life, their current understanding, is usable with reference to it? How can the teacher's knowledge of the map help interpret the child's needs right now? And how can it help determine the right medium, the right environment in which the child should be placed in order that his growth may be properly directed?
So it's about using the logical knowledge to foster psychological growth.
Precisely. That whole process, seeing the subject matter as a dynamic factor within the child's total and growing experience, that's what Dewey means by psychologizing it.
Okay, so what happens when we get this wrong? When we fail to psychologize the curriculum? When subject matter is just presented as it stands to the specialist, external, disconnected from the child's actual life? What are the dangers Dewey saw?
He identifies three typical evils, as he calls them. Pretty strong language.
What's the first one?
First, if there's no real organic connection with what a child has already seen, felt, experienced, loved, then the material just becomes a bare or mere symbol. It's dead and barren.
Like learning abstract rules without context.
Exactly. It's a hieroglyph without a key, he says. Just a dead weight to burden the mind instead of something that actually engages it.
Okay, that's bad. What's the second evil?
Second, you get a profound lack of motivation. If it's disconnected, there's no natural craving, no need, no demand coming from the child.
Why should they care?
Exactly. When a material is just handed over directly in the form of a lesson to be learned as a lesson, those crucial connecting links of need and aim are conspicuous for their absence. That, Dewey says, is what we mean by the mechanical and dead in instruction.
Just going through the motion.
And the third evil is perhaps the most ironic.
Right.
Even the most rigorously scientific matter, if it's presented externally, without being psychologized, actually loses its scientific value for the learner. It loses its thought-provoking character, its organizing function.
So?
It just gets reduced to stuff only for memory, rote memorization. So the child ends up getting neither the benefit of the adult's logical structure, nor the benefit of using their own natural ways of understanding and responding.
Wow. So they lose out on both ends.
Yeah, it's the worst of both worlds, really, stuck in this unproductive middle ground.
And Dewey warns about this whole train of evils that follows from that, right? Like resorting to artificial means to make things interesting.
Yes, exactly. We end up needing adventitious leverage or artificial bribes. He talks about how sometimes familiarity breeds contempt, but it can also breed this weird sort of forced affection.
How do you mean?
Well, children might develop this cabined and cramped experience where they actually become interested in just manipulating the symbols, the meaningless stuff, precisely because meaningful business for the mind be denied. It's all they've got.
That's depressing.
It is. He also warns against using contrast effects like learn this or you'll be punished, or trying to sugarcoat boring material with unrelated fun stuff.
Why is sugarcoating bad? Seems helpful.
Because, he argues, if the child's attention has not been playing upon the actual material, if they were focused on the sugarcoating, that has not been apprehended nor worked into faculty. You haven't actually learned the thing itself. True assimilation, real learning has to come from within, from genuine engagement with the material itself.
Makes sense. You can't trick the mind into learning.
Not deeply, no.
So after this whole deep dive, how does the case of the child versus the curriculum stand? What's the final verdict from Dewey?
Well, the verdict is pretty clear. The radical fallacy, the fundamental mistake, is supposing we have to choose. That we either leave the child to totally unguided spontaneity, or we impose direction strictly from without.
That it's one or the other.
Right. And what's really illuminating is Dewey's clarification that actually neither of those extremes is even possible. There's no such thing as sheer self-activity, completely independent of context. All activity happens in a medium within an environment.
Okay.
And similarly, you can't truly have imposition of truth from without. Learning isn't just pouring water into a bucket. Everything ultimately depends on the activity which the mind itself undergoes in responding to what is presented from without. The mind has to do something with the input,
It's always an interaction.
always, which leads to this crucial point. The formulated wealth of knowledge that makes up the course of study, the curriculum, the map, its primary value is actually for the teacher, not for the child.
Ah, that's interesting. Say more about that.
It's the teacher who uses the map to understand the territory and the potential journeys. It tells the teacher, essentially, look, such and such are the capacities, the fulfillments, in truth and beauty and behavior that are open to these children. These are the amazing places they could potentially go.
Okay.
Now, the curriculum says to the teacher, see to it that day by day the conditions you create are such that their own activities, the child's activities, move inevitably in this direction toward such culmination of themselves.
So the teacher uses the curriculum to guide the child's natural growth towards its potential.
Precisely. The curriculum becomes the essential tool, the map, that allows the child's nature to fulfill its own destiny.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really powerful idea, isn't it? The teacher, knowing the destination possibilities wisely and thoroughly, understanding that race expression embodied in the curriculum,
Mhm.
can then truly understand the child's starting point, their present potential, and skillfully guide them towards realizing it.
It puts enormous responsibility, but also incredible potential in the hands of the teacher who understands this relationship.
It really does. So as you listening reflect on this deep dive, maybe think about how you might consciously try to psychologize new information in your own life.
Good thought.
How can you connect something new you need to learn maybe for work, or just out of curiosity to your existing experiences, your existing questions, your curiosities? How do you make it less like a dry external lesson?
And more like a vital, meaningful part of your own ongoing journey.
Exactly. Making your own learning less like a forced march and more like, well, like exploring with a really good map.
A great way to think about it.